All right, everybody, welcome to Unscripted podcast one-on-one. And tonight I have a very special guest. My guest is Katie, and I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Hi. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for having me. This is a really neat opportunity, and I'm excited to be here. So I'm Katie Sladek, and I'm 44. Live in Hilliard, Ohio. I've been here 20 years, which is crazy. We moved here from Tennessee, when we were 24, and it was like, sure, I didn't even really know where Ohio was. I'm like, sure, I'll do whatever. And here we are, 3 kids and 20 years later, and just living our best life. It's a good time over here in Hilliard.
That's great. I wanted everybody to know, so tonight's a special night. We, at the time of this recording, it's September 30th, I believe it is. I don't even know what the date is, but we are coming up in October. And over the weekend, as this podcast has grown, I've looked for various stories and wanted people to tell their story. And over the weekend, I saw that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I just felt a pull in my spirit to highlight stories of people that have been on the journey, are going through the journey, want to highlight the journey, whatever it might be. I thought we would bring awareness for breast cancer. So I put something out. Actually, my wife helped out with that, and you know Heather well. So she put something out kind of on my behalf and helped share the message. And you were one of the first people that stepped up and said, "I'm in." And so thank you so much for that. And just for our audience, that's kind of the path that I think we'll be on a little bit in October, is to tell stories. So with that, let me stop talking, and can you share your story with us, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I would love to. I think it's awesome too that you are wanting to highlight this and do this. I mean, there is a lot of awareness already about breast cancer, and being a nurse, obviously, it's not something that's foreign, just like medical stuff and cancer in general. But I will say that just in this short journey, I mean, I'm only like a month and a half into this. It's very, very new over here, but it's, there are so many women that have experienced this in some way. And I've just experienced so much outpouring of support of women who have, people who have messaged me directly, like a friend of a friend who have had it, or just friends saying, I know someone. And so many women, and men do get it too, but I haven't met a man yet, even though I've heard of them, but so many women have just been willing to share their own journey with me, and it's so encouraging. So I really feel super excited to be a part and be able to hopefully do the same for other people. And I have to tell you a funny story real quick before I get into my story about, this is kind of the first time we're meeting. I know your family, and I know Heather, but I have to tell you super quick. The first time I met your family was in BSF many years ago when Bren was in preschool, and she was so sweet. I loved having her, and she said, they wrote me this card, and Bren was like, I love being a Conrad because the Conrads are strong, and her little 4-year-old. And I was like, the Conrads are strong. And Brett, of course, she's grown up to be just an amazing young woman. So it's always fun seeing y'all in the community, and, extra. I just love that. I always feel this little connection. So anyway, so my story with this journey did not start very long ago. I basically, last fall, we just do routine screenings, and I had my routine mammogram, and they did find some things there that were not cancer, but they wanted to take them out. So I did have a small procedure in the fall where they took out some tissue. No big deal. It wasn't cancer. Come back in 6 months and have a breast MRI because, that's just the baseline, and we'll see you then. And so that would bring us to, it was supposed to be in June. And then COVID happened, and I didn't get in there until July. And honestly, I was very, very, I like to use the word arrogant. I don't know, my one friend said, I wouldn't know to describe that and my attitude approaching this, but I have to be really honest in my spirit that it was, I didn't need the MRI. You know, there's no way I have cancer. This is ridiculous. You know, the journey of the last 2 years of my life have been really focused on health and wellness and fitness and nutrition, and it doesn't compute. You know, it just didn't compute. So I would say my spirit was arrogant. I mean, I almost didn't go to the MRI. I thought it was unnecessary. Anyway, thank goodness I went. They found, you know, multiple nodules and you know, then proceeded with the biopsy and an ultrasound, a repeat mammogram, which it still did not show up on the mammogram. So that was very scary that it wasn't seen 9 months ago on the mammogram. It wasn't seen, you know, this was just in July. And so even as I left there, I forgot that I had the MRI. I mean, honestly, I did the MRI. 3 days went by and I had forgotten I had it. Like I had just dismissed it completely. And so there really wasn't any anxiety for that. I know there's a lot of talk of, you know, when we have to do mammograms and MRIs, and that's just something that I never really experienced was anxiety from them, because I think I was a little arrogant. Like I just thought there's just no way, whatever, I just have to do this. And so anyhow, when she called me and said there's some abnormal things, I was like, oh, well, it still didn't even occur to me that I would actually have cancer. So anyway, fast forward, like I think a week later I got in and had the procedures done. And then, so right after I had the biopsy, it was an ultrasound biopsy. It sort of hit me. I was talking to two of my really dear friends, and each of them have experienced, one had breast cancer, one had, it was a different type of cancer experience in her family. And, but I'm sitting there talking to them and I'm like very, very, again, I'm going to use the word arrogantly, saying this is ridiculous. I mean, I'm glad they did the biopsy. Yeah, I'm thankful-ish. I was thankful, right? Because I was just like, but there's no way. And God was just kind of like, really, Katie? Like, there's really no way? Like, you're talking to like two of your best friends have gone through it. Like, why? They would not think it would happen to them, you know? And it just was really like, whoosh, like in the middle of my sentence, right? Like, sister, you better like simmer, because you're not too good for this, you know? And I never would have thought, you know, my mom passed away of lung cancer 12 years ago this month, actually in October. And so it's not like I haven't lived through cancer and the experience of cancer, you know? And so it wasn't that I even really didn't think it could be a real thing. I don't know. I wouldn't have thought that I was someone who thought I was too good to get it. I wouldn't have said that about myself, but that's how I was acting. And so that's really so within that next week, honestly, it's like whenever you're, whenever you want to have a baby and you are thinking about having babies as a woman, you notice like every pregnant woman there is, right? I mean, all the time, right? So it was like, for like 7 days, it was like, every time I turn around, it was like cancer. And I was like, okay, God, like, are you telling me that I'm going to have cancer? Or am I just like, you know, hearing it because I'm just hypersensitive to it? But whatever, in that week, God definitely was very, I mean, I was prepared basically for the phone call, you know what I mean? And I think that I couldn't at the time say for sure, he's telling me I'm going to have it. I mean, I don't know the mind of God, obviously, but looking back, I mean, for sure, my heart was a lot softer to receive that information. I wasn't. So that was a Monday. I mean, and then, you know, it was like, I got the call at work and, you know, actually one of the biopsies came back. You know, they happened to have an opening the next day at the surgeon, you know, which there's a whole story in the story of how God just prepared the way for these. And we were able to get on, you know, the next morning to see the surgeon and have our options explored. And bilateral mastectomy was just the best option for all the details. And I don't mind going into all that, but I don't know that we really, you know, but it's just, of all from what the MRI showed, and you know, if I was to do a lumpectomy, they wanted more biopsies, and honestly, even though I had received that I had cancer, and I was, I think God had prepared me, I still was like, it's not really cancer. I mean, it's just like cancer light. Like that's really just cancer light. just like a little, and this is what I always tell to people, like, it's just like a touch of cancer. It's just a little bit of cancer. This is fine. I'm going to have surgery. This is no big deal. Like, I can totally do this. So I still like hadn't really like absorbed, right? And so therefore I didn't need any like real cancer treatment, right? Like, which would be like radiation or chemotherapy, so when she gave me that, I'm saying that to say, whenever I had the option of the lumpectomy, my mindset was, I'm just going to have a surgery. And so when she said, I can give you a lumpectomy, but then I have to do radiation, I was like, no, door number 2. Sister's not about to have something, right? Which my mindset is completely different now, but at the time, that's sort of where I was in processing it. And so anyway, door number 3 was the bilateral. Besides the radiation, there was going to have to be a lot more testing, and I thought, I don't want to do all that. So anyhow, we opted on that. By Thursday, they also want to do genetic testing. So by Thursday, I was having the genetic counselor phone call. I had an appointment with a plastic surgeon, and then by Friday I had a surgery date. I mean, so literally within 5 days, it was like, Ohio Health, I mean, they are amazing. I'm sure OSU is the same way. I know some, the cancer center is amazing, but it was just like, wow, really, really thorough. They are just like a well-oiled machine. I felt very well taken care of. And so then it was sort of just waiting, you just wait. I think it was 4 weeks, from surgery, from when I got the call to surgery. So then it's like, okay, you have a little bit, which was good. It was actually nice to have that time, because you had time to sort of realize what you're going to need. And, basically my entire life as I knew it just was about to just be like freight train to a stop and take a different direction for a little bit, which is always it's never a bad thing at all. Right. And, so it was good to have that time, but then by the time the week of surgery came, it was like, I'm so ready. I'm ready. Like, right. Like, I've met with people. I didn't really read a whole lot, which I normally dive into, just all into what I'm doing and go big or go home kind of. But I wasn't really able to with like this, with the breast cancer information. It kind of like took me back to a place with my mom, even though it was very strange. And it's interesting because people will say, oh, it's fine, we're gonna have a surgery. And I really felt that way. Like, I really feel like so early, it was caught so early. I'm so lucky. I don't know why I'm so lucky. And my husband the other day, I was like, why am I so, we just found out I'm not gonna have to have chemotherapy, which is amazing, like amazing. I'm just like, I can't believe it. And, I said, why am I so lucky? And he was like, well, you better not waste it, and you better do something with it.
Wow.
Like, what are you going to do?
Wow. Yeah.
And it's just like, thank you for saying that. Like, what am I going to do? And so I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to do, I don't know, this is a start, right? Like, maybe somebody is going to be, and you hear this, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm always ready for what God's going to do. I feel like I wasn't quite ready for this, but I'm hopeful. I'm excited about what will come of it, and very thankful.
Katie, first, before I forget, thank you so much for the story of Brent. I've never heard that. And she's our social butterfly. She's our expresser. I don't know where she gets that from.
I have no idea.
No, she's our expressor. So that's a great story. So yeah. Not to divert, but thank you for that story of that.
No, yeah, I love it.
And it's funny, the other thing that you said it reminds me of, and I hate to even bring it up but when you get ready to buy a car and you're like, oh, a Honda Civic, and then you see a million of them on the road, so this is the guy's perspective of that, is you see a million Honda Civics, you're like, I didn't realize there was so many Honda Civics. So I can appreciate seeing those things, as you said, seeing all that news, because it is everywhere and we probably gloss over it. And that's, I think, important in what you're saying is, again, you caught it early, it sounds like. And even though you had already been there just a year ago, just to recap, you'd been there a year ago, it was still, you have to maintain those things, and you have to maintain those appointments and all those things, even though, as you said, you didn't really feel like that. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's important as far as I know, and I've got more stories coming in October, as you know, and I believe you knew our good friend Steph, and his journey about 10 years ago with cancer, and it was difficult, and we're gonna get a lot of those stories out because I think early detection and all those things are so important. So thank you for sharing that, and I agree, and I'm honored, honestly, that you would take the time to step out and have this maybe be that opportunity for you. And that's not the first thing that you're doing, because I want to share that as well in a second. I know you've got a blog going, so I want to make sure we share that and people can be a part of your journey, because I think we all want to do that. And the last thing I would say too is, as you were talking, was I appreciate your outlook. It's so positive. I'm a worst case scenario person. Heather would tell you that. So if anything happens, no matter what it is, my mind goes to the worst possible scenario, and then I work back from there. And then I've always just assumed if I've already can accept the worst thing that can happen, then anything that happens before that's a bonus.
Got it. It's a piece of cake, right?
It's a terrible way to live. You really live in a world that's, a lot of times it doesn't happen. I know my mom, who's also passed, used to always say the worst thing that you think will happen never does. And she was 99% right. She's right, but I always tend to go to the worst thing. And it doesn't sound like you're doing that. It sounds like you're taking the positive in all of this. Even going into it, you were taking the positive. And I really appreciate that mentality. And I think it's so important again, I have zero, expertise in the area. I just know people that have gone through it, and I think so much of it is outlook. At least going through the journey, and it's tough, but outlook is really so important. And you sound like you have a fantastic outlook.
Well, thank you. And I would say that there are times when I'm, like you said, I think of the worst thing, or at least I say when my kids are trying to make a decision, it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, what? Okay. That, then make the decision. But in general, though, in this particular, will say that, and I've said this to some of my friends before, so I'm glad to have the opportunity to say this. Thank you for saying that about my outlook. I don't feel like my outlook is anything special, but people have said that to me. So I'm going to hear that and receive it, and thank you. But I will say that when you've sat in the doctor's office with my mom, and I know a lot of women even my age hear this, but when you sat there and they said, it's stage 4 metastatic, like there's nothing, right? Like, it's like, this seemed to me, honestly, and it wasn't like, I'm just trying to make myself be positive. It just did not, it just seemed so manageable, because that wasn't what I heard. What I heard was, it's in here, it's contained, we can do surgery. You may have to do tamoxifen, which totally shocked me. It's like a drug that you take and I did not expect anything other than like, we're just going to take it out. And that's just my lack of knowledge in the area of treatment options. But so I'm having to wrestle with that part a little bit, honestly, because then I'm like, well, that's a little more like real cancer, right? I mean, that's not just cancer light anymore. When you tell me I have to be on a drug for 5 to 10 years, that's going to mess with my hormones. Right. Like, we don't need any help messing with the hormones, right? So, but that's a whole nother. However, I will say that was really what helped me to have the attitude that I've had, and just like, this is totally manageable, right? Like, yes, this surgery, I mean, I work out, Aaron, like 5 to 6 times a week, and I love it. Like, it makes me so happy. And I'm not going to be able to do that to the same capacity for a very long time, right? This is a process. Reconstruction is a process. So, it definitely derailed my life as it was happening, right? Like, I got up at 5 a.m. and I went to the gym, and then I have an online job where I work with wellness and nutrition for an online nutrition program, and I'm a coach, and I love it, and I do that work, and then I'll also work at the pediatrician's office, and some days I'll go and do that, and it's just like, was very like, if I'm not doing that, I'm on a walk, or I'm on a jog, or like, I'm gonna go to this workout because I can, or whatever, like, I'm gonna go to anyway. But so it's but I'm getting off point here, but the point is, when I've heard that and I've sat in that, 14 years ago, because my mom, she lived 2 years after she was diagnosed, this was just a completely different ballgame. So it really did feel so manageable. And what I'm learning, and as I'm excited to hear all the other the rest of the interviews in October, but what I'm learning is like, gosh, the journeys are so different, the details are so different, you know, and I want to be able to offer, you know, part of me feels inadequate because I don't have to do chemotherapy. Like, what am I? And I said that to my friend. I had a friend come over today, and we were walking, and she actually just recently got a job working with chemotherapy and doing the caps, like the cold capping. And I said, you know, I feel a little bit inadequate. I want to help people, but like, I don't know what the journey of chemotherapy is going to be like, you know? And it's just like, I don't want that. There's going to be a lot of women who aren't going to have chemotherapy. It doesn't make it any less of a journey. And I need to like allow myself that freedom and that truth. Like, and so I want to be able to, there's just so many different ways that this goes, that all cancer goes. And just as a society alone, like you said, you go to the worst place. Yeah. In general, like the word cancer in our society is very scary. Right. And we know what cancer can do, but we know what can be done to it. And the thing is, you just like, you don't know what your journey is going to be. So it is, you know, I say this is very manageable because it seems that way, but like, I don't really know. I really have no idea. Right. Yeah. So it's just, you can only go on what you know and just your perspective. And I don't know if that even makes any sense, but that helped me. Having that experience in my life helped me to be able to, at least for this part, cling on and just face it head on and just be like, we're doing it. It's fine. It's going to be fine, you know, and look forward to the challenges of what it's going to look like when I'm able to get back into my active lifestyle. And like, okay, this means I get to have a whole new workout. You know, this means I get to like go back to like progressive overload and then getting back into maintenance, right? And it's like, that's fun. That kind of stuff is fun to me. So I'm excited about that. But and then just like, I don't know, the people I'm meeting and who am I going to be able to run into? And I mean, just even, you know, getting closer, a little bit closer with your family alone. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just like one big adventure, right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really is. So it's, I don't know. It's, had I heard the news, you have to do chemotherapy or it's metastatic, or it's, you know, there's all the different types of it, right? Like there's positive and negative and triple negative and triple, I mean, there's like a million different combinations and they all have, you know, it's just like, God just gives you the grace that you need for that situation. He just does. He just does. He always gives us what we need. I think we have to choose to see him and choose to feel him and choose that he's there, right? Whether we, but it's so, I don't know. That sort of has helped me though. And that's a long answer to your question.
No, it was a great answer. And I think, again, just listening as you talked, one of the things that I don't know a lot, but what I have seen is it's a disruptor. You know, you said that everybody's journey is different, and it is. I think everyone's experience, while somewhat similar, are different because it depends on where they are in that timeline and the detection and when. But the one thing it does is disrupt. And it disrupts your workout, it disrupts your family, it disrupts your work, it disrupts, and then your family also has disruptions now because everything changes. And I think, you know, again, we don't expect it, we don't know it's coming, and it's all of a sudden it just shows up uninvited. And I know just my experience with friends, and I certainly can't explain what it's like to feel those things. But I know my experience with friends is that, wow, that wasn't invited. Now's not the time for this. It's, right. So it's this interrupter that, as you said, it's the last thing you saw coming, I think. And so, but at the same time, I think, again, it goes back to outlook and all those things. And it sounds like you have such a positive outlook in that. And, you know, I'm inspired by your outlook on it, and you've said a few times, like, I look forward to that, which is, wow. You know, I'm just being honest. We're unscripted. We don't know each other as well as you know Heather, and so I'm learning this just like anybody that will listen to it, and that's amazing that you would say I'm looking forward to this. So that's a question I have for you. I know we always have, when someone passes away, we have 5 stages of grief, right? They always talk about that, and you go from mad to sad to acceptance, or I don't even know what they are. But I know there's 5 of them. So I'm always stuck in the mad. And so, have you had that experience with this news as you went along? Have you felt yourself walking through different seasons of those, or have you pretty much just been I'm gonna take this on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because I can never remember them either, but I always, for some reason, can recognize them on everybody else, right? I'm like, oh, I know what stage you're in, even I don't know the order of them. Yeah. But I would say that I for sure had denial. I mean, for sure, I would say maybe part of it's coping. I mean, I am somebody who generally dives head in. I come up with a plan quick, no matter what it is. Okay, this is the situation, here's the plan, what are we going to do about it? Let's go for it. I don't often allow a lot of time to feel through that plan. So I think part of it, maybe it's denial, maybe it's a little coping, maybe that's the same thing, I'm not sure. So I think for sure there's a little bit of denial. I think for sure there's definitely, I felt the acceptance of it, my heart softening to it, being more tender to the idea and to those around me, my family, maybe what they're experiencing. I haven't grieved anything. I don't, as far as I know a lot of women, we talk about when they're trying to make decisions, this came up in the conversation with the surgeon, when you're making your decision, some people want to preserve tissue, maybe, I feel like when you're thinking about having this type of surgery, you're losing a part of your body. Right. There could be some grief there. Mm-hmm. I had no grief. I'm sisters have turned on me. I'm done with you. We are not friends anymore. Goodbye. So that part, they serve me well, which that's part of it. I don't really need them anymore for what we, my kids are grown. I don't plan on having any more children. So I didn't have any grief. I have not had any grief yet. And I really haven't had any anger. I mean, honestly, I honestly have not had any anger. I really believe from the bottom of my heart in God's sovereignty, and I believe in his purpose. I don't think he caused this, but I think that we live in a broken world. I think bad things happen, hard things happen, and I firmly believe that we are promised trouble, whatever that is, and everybody it looks different for everybody. And so it was immediately an opportunity for me to see God go before me in the details of the appointments. I mean, of even having the experience with my mom, my own health and wellness journey over the last couple of years, set me up to be in really good shape that has served me well for my recovery. I mean, I don't know what it's supposed to be like, and it hasn't been amazing, but it hasn't been super hard, I mean, we've also been so loved on by the community. I definitely have to touch on that, in here in a minute, but I definitely don't feel mad, because I just feel God is there. I believe that he's always with you. And there's just really no reason to be angry. I felt so I have not been angry. Definitely I've had moments in the recovery where it's almost this mental challenge of a little frustrated because the drains are uncomfortable, but they're going to come out tomorrow. Hopefully it's going to be the greatest day. You're going to see me on Instagram dancing. I'm hoping I can lift my arms higher than this. You're going to see me doing stretches. I mean, it's going to be a party, but it's where it gets just oh, it's Groundhog's Day. Oh, this again? Oh, they're still here. So the last couple of days, for sure, the last 3 or 4 days, the mental challenge of just oh, we're still doing this. Oh, this has been fun, but I'm ready to move on. Oh, it's still not, And so it's I've really had to mentally and this is what I've been doing, and it's a little cheesy, but it totally works. In the middle of the night when I wake up and it's uncomfortable and I'm nothing feels right, and it's just I have to I sleep in a chair, so I have to scoot out of the chair with my abs, because I can't push up my arms, because you can't do anything, right? So literally I'm and oh, at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I'm here I go again, Anyway, and so it's like, at first it's fine, but like after, almost 2 weeks of it, like I'm over it, right? And so I'm like, thank you, God, for the dreams. Thank you that I can walk. Thank you that I can get up. Thank you that I can use my abs to get up. Thank you, Lord, that just whatever it is, I'm like grumbly. I'm just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And like, it worked. Like, I didn't know it was going to work, but it totally worked. Like, I wasn't angry. Like, I wasn't like annoyed, and I was able to go back to sleep. So it's just like finding those little tricks of like, and then, just saying it out loud, like naming it instead of like keeping it in, and then just staying busy. I'm like, 2 more days, hopefully, right? Just things like that have kind of gotten me through, but honestly, not yet. I can't say I won't get angry. I might, but I haven't experienced that one yet.
Yeah. Well, and again, I'm so surprised by just your outlook. I get mad because I got to wear a mask into the gas station.
I do too.
Katie, wow. I'm blown away by the things that I find frustrating. And John Mayer, the singer, has a song, and there's a lyric in it that I always love, that it says, you better put your so-called problem in quotations. And I love that line because it's a reminder that my so-called problems, I should probably put that in quotations, because that's not a problem. I mean, and your outlook is just amazing. It's amazing. And I actually want to, before we get too far and close out, I want to make sure I extend an invitation. It's an open invitation to you to please come back. As you're on this journey, I would love to have you back on and just share as we go along, and I think others would want to hear too how you're doing. And
I would love to.
You have an absolutely open invitation. As you feel like it, as you feel led, you let me know, and you're welcome anytime.
I would love to.
Going.
I would love to. I'm all about like, what's it really like? I love like tangible, like I love to think of tangible things, right? Like, growing up in church, like we both go to church, we're both believers. It's like, God goes before you. It's like, what does that really mean? Right? Like, let's be real, people. What does that really mean? Yeah. So I love to put things that like the truths that we learn in like tangible ways. So I'd love to share examples of that. And that's what I want I guess if I like, and I keep meaning to do a video for my kids and my nieces and my nephews. So if my nieces and nephews and children, and of course anybody else, ever watch this is the video, because I haven't made one yet. But it's like, I don't want them to hear the word cancer. Like from the very beginning, I was like, I don't want y'all to hear the word cancer. Like I don't. Like I have lived through that, and you are like a slave to cancer. And it's terrible, right? Like it owns you. It owns every thought. You're scared, the next appointment, the next whatever. And it's like, you feel powerless to it. And I was like, this is not going to be that, right? Like, and so I want them to hear, I don't want them to hear the word cancer. I want them to see God, and I want them to see people, our friends and our community who have loved us and come alongside of us and just lifted us up. I mean, that's what I want them to like bad things are going to happen in life. Like they are going to have stuff, like they are 16, 14, and 9. And then, my nieces and nephews are in there, those same ages in between. And it's like, hard things are going to happen, like, especially right now, right? Like, and, so like, what are you going to do with it? Like, how are you going to respond to it? And, even to bring Hilliard schools in, right? Like E plus R equals O, right? Like, it's like so true. Like, how are you going to respond to whatever it is? And that's what I really want them to see. And my husband and I are really both on the same page as that. And so, it's really important to me to learn how to see God and see love, and learn then how to support other people, because we are being taught that, and I will say that one thing that is I feel very inadequate at as a woman is bringing meals to other families and bringing gifts to other women and other families who are in need. Like I've served in other ways, but this is something that's I've really struggled with. And my friends, if they watch this, are going to be cracking up, because it's just, they know. And I can tell you that, man, I have learned, I have like been taught how to love, and I'm taking notes like on what meals are easy and good, and what containers to put them in, and just like because I am so overwhelmed, and that's what I want my kids and my husband and I to be like. We know now how to give back because people have given to us. And so it's those things, right? Like, that's all part of the journey. I feel like when God's like, sure, you can just believe that I'm real, or you can like really hear me and know me and live the journey, right? Like, you can live like heaven on earth. Right. I mean, this is very far from heaven. I get that, you know what I'm saying. But I feel like that's what he means, right? It's like, and so that's really what I would want them to know.
Well, you certainly touched on community, and I think my words as you were talking is that you're living your testimony now. You've done it throughout this podcast, call, video, whatever this thing is, this media thingy. You're living your testimony today, and that's what I think your kids are going to see and catch. Without even you saying a word, they're going to see your testimony being lived out, whether it's your acceptance and your attitude towards this new thing that you've been presented with. It's amazing. So before I forget too, I want to invite your husband on as well to maybe give it perspective. If he would love to come on someday,
he'd love to.
Want to, then I'd love to hear his perspective as well, because I think as guys, we need to know, how do we be better husbands or partners or friends to anyone going through that journey from our perspective, because we clearly can't understand what that must be like. And so I would certainly love to have him on sometime to talk about that as well. But this went so fast.
I know. Oh my goodness. Okay, yes, it does go by fast.
No reason to be sorry. It went so fast. That's why I said open invitation. I think there's a lot more we can continue on with, and I think I definitely want to have you back on as you progress through this. And I know I'm cheering, and I believe your attitude is going to be so helpful in seeing you get victory in this and God get the glory, which I know you've already given him, even in the midst of the fire. Wow. I'm so thankful. I'm thankful for you coming on and raising your hand and being the first one in this series that we're going to do. I think it really sets the pace for everyone else, no matter where they are on the journey, or if they've never been a part of the journey, or that journey comes later, or they never have this in their life. At least they have some perspective. And I couldn't have asked for a better first guest to kick this off. I really couldn't. And that's no disrespect to everybody else that's going to come on, because as you said earlier, everybody's in a different place in that process. And I'm just thankful that you're the person that's done the game warm up for us. And I don't want to say I look forward to the series, because I don't look forward to why we're having the series, but I do look forward to the stories like yours and the people that are just doing amazing things in the midst of something that was completely uninvited. And so
I love that. That's such good words. Uninvited. I love that. That's such a great, one word, done. So true. And you're right. So many. I'm excited to hear them all too. Again, I mean, but it's real. It's out there. It's happening. Right. So, it's awesome that you're doing that.
Well, thank you. And our prayers are with your family. And if there's everything we can do as a community, both as a family for you, or any resources that I might have, please let me know. We are absolutely here for you in this. And again, I can't wait to have you on again, and maybe your husband, and just continue to tell your story. And I know it's going to be a good story. And I'm blessed to have met you tonight and have you come on and spend time with this audience.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I loved it. I would love to do it again. There's been lots of interesting things along the way. So even the process of reconstruction is interesting. And I will have to take tamoxifen, which messes with your hormones. And that's a whole other thing. I'm a little nervous about it, but it could be interesting. So we can just talk all about that. I would love to share that as we go along for people because I have no idea what to expect. My husband's a little scared too. He's like,
yeah. Absolutely. Well, there's a lot to look forward and ahead to, and I just I'm not often out of words, but I'm blessed to see your perspective, and I can guarantee at least the rest of the night, and anytime I listen to this again or listen to it back, I'm going to be inspired by your overall outlook and probably not get so upset because I may have to wear a mask into the grocery store.
Well, makes you feel better. I get upset at that too. So, you know.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay, that's better. So, and the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go hug Bryn and tell her I'm glad she's happy
She's
to
strong. She is strong. The Conrads are strong, and y'all are so strong. I love it. It was awesome.
That's great stuff. Well, Katie, thank you so much. Have a great night, and again, we'll have you on again soon. And
Thank you so much, Aaron.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, bye.